Ah, you see my messy papers instead of me. Ooh, Ooh, I just woke up. Um, it's terrible. I'd like to say that my power was out until now, but it wasn't. It came on overnight, and I was up in the middle of the night just attending to things since the power came back on, and I overslept. I set an alarm. I don't remember the alarm going off. I woke up bright and early, ready to go, and put my head down, and then it was after 8 o'clock. I apologize, but I've been through a lot. No power. Whenever the power is taken away from me like that, especially right before something crucial, it just tells me something very important is going on in my life. I always take it very seriously. We didn't have any major storm here. It was windy. It rained. A lot of rain, but it wasn't during the time it rained. It was just after it had rained, and briefly it got windy, and boom, power out, and the whole area, whole neighborhood. It always happens like that. It's the whole area. We're like part of the grid that is. The power goes out here before it goes out anywhere else. I don't know why that is. It's the way everything's wired and put together. We're just very vulnerable to power outages in this area. All right, let's get to it. I remember we were on part 3, and I really want to get through this. This is very, very important. I didn't understand how important until I realized that Elliot Rodger, we're going to be reading Elliot Rodger's Manifesto. He's the guy who I guess he's become the father of the incel movement. I mean, he was a 20-year-old kid. But not really. I knew nothing about him. I just heard him mentioned in relation to the Bryan Kohberger case. And when they took into evidence a book with sentences underlined on page 118, everybody talked about page 118 of Elliot Rodger's Manifesto, and I immediately looked it up, and I knew exactly what passage David underlined on that page of the Manifesto. David being the true identity of Bryan Kohberger and the true writer of Elliot Rodger's Manifesto. That's all I knew, was that it was David who wrote that. All I had to read was that. I was going through the page to find, because people were theorizing, which passage was underlined on that page, and it was towards the bottom of the page. It wasn't the end, but 3/4 down the page, I was like, David wrote this, and this is the passage that was underlined. I bet you anything. I mean, I might be wrong, but that's my hunch, okay? And we'll get to page 118. It's taking a while. It's a book. I really wonder if the person who wrote this was writing a book. I don't know. Manifesto. I think of a manifesto as being maximum 5 pages long, maybe 10. But 100, I don't know. It's more than 118. That's all I know. I guess we'll be pulling it up in a moment, and I can see how many pages it is. It's just, you'll see. Yeah, and it's someone who took a long time to paint the picture of a wonderful life, But yeah, you can see the resemblance, okay? basically, I had no idea when I started this series of videos. Okay, first of all, I didn't know it was going to be a series. I thought, oh, I won't read the whole thing. I'll just like, I mean, I knew it was over 100 pages long, and I thought, oh, well, I always underestimate how long it takes to do anything. I tend to do that anyway, and I just thought, well, I'll just start and we'll see how it goes. I can skip over parts or whatever as we go, but I need to read every word. We need to read every word. I don't know, I guess there are people who have read every word. It was a book. I do think it was intended to be a book. It's not a manifesto. I mean, I guess it turned into one. Maybe the person who wrote this had a change of heart or had a change of plans. I don't know. But it is not a manifesto. It is an autobiography. And it's beautifully written, very detailed. There aren't many typos. It's very polished. This person put a lot of time and energy into this. I know how long it takes to write a book. I still haven't finished my first official one. He did not do it. David knows. David is this guy right here. He's my ex-boyfriend, who he was my absentee boyfriend in 1994, when I met and got to know Ron Goldman, and I kept telling Ron, I have a boyfriend. Anyway, Ron melted my defenses, and I eventually ended up marrying him without realizing that the pretend wedding ceremony between platonic friends on the evening of June 11th, 1994 was the real deal. I didn't know our friend George was an actual rabbi. And I mean, they said it was just a romantic, thing between friends. I mean, I don't know. Call me naive. I believed them. I trusted them. And then I woke up the next morning, and to Ron's surprise, I finally agreed to marry him. I was just, he took me all over LA, introduced me to all his friends throughout the city, and wined and dined me. And George allowed us to use his fancy sports car. It was just a lovely evening. And, even before the evening began, I would never have agreed to go out with him that night if I hadn't thought, well, I'm thinking I might go out with this guy. I'm thinking, I was ready at that point. I was thinking, maybe I once I go out with someone, I want to marry them. I do. It's the way I've always been, I fall in love and I want to marry you. I don't want, there's nobody else in my existence except you. And so, when it was in the back of my mind, well, I think I could go out with this guy. I don't know where my boyfriend is, and yeah, what the hell, if once I agreed to go out that night, it was like I was saying, yes, I will marry you. I just wasn't ready to actually say it. I wanted to see how things went, how I felt. And yeah, the next morning when he asked me to marry him, I said yes. And I was ready, after that wonderful evening out, being treated the way I should be treated, like the lady I am and was. And the answer was yes, and he couldn't believe it. Anyway, but I had to break up with my boyfriend, who I hadn't seen for months. David, right here on the screen. And he wasn't picking up his phone, and I was forced to leave him a voicemail. It was a very long, detailed, loving voicemail, telling him that I was gonna, that I was breaking up with him. Well, to get engaged to Ron. I didn't realize I had just married him the night before. I didn't understand that. It wasn't, anyway, so just that's the rest is history, unfortunately. And it took me almost 10 years to remember Ron to begin with, that I even knew him. And then it took until just a few years ago to remember that I actually married him, okay? That he was actually my husband. It took me all that time. That's what trauma does to a person, and that's what trauma did to me. And I block things out. That's the way I coped with all of my trauma. And, yeah. Anyway, so that's just a little summary, a little background for you. And David has a security clearance. He wears disguises. And I put in, when this happened, and, when the Idaho 4 thing happened, I knew it was David. Okay? I mean, it took me, it took me a long time to remember everything about David. When he murdered, I don't want to say words like that. The algorithm, please, I really hope it doesn't penalize me. When he murdered Ron, I was going through a lot of trauma as it was, and what my mind did to protect me is it just I didn't know Ron anymore. Ron was I had 2 roommates. Sophia, my classmate from Columbia, former classmate from Columbia at the time. And she's still my former classmate from Columbia, but yeah, we weren't going to Columbia anymore. And Tiffany. And Tiffany, he was Tiffany's friend. She was getting down and dirty with the guys over at the Baja Cantina in the bathroom over there. And 2 of the guys who got down and dirty with Tiffany in the bathroom over at the Baja Cantina were Ron and George. And, I was, she was crazy. Okay. Tiffany was crazy. I knew that moving in. Well, no, I didn't actually know how crazy when I moved in. She was when I moved in. She was still on good behavior, at least decent behavior. She still had her boyfriend living with her, Derek. But then she started doing drugs, and it was all downhill from there. And Derek got fed up and moved out. Oh, and that's when it got so bad. Without Derek there, she was crazy. She was out of control, And I tried to cope the best I could. I have nowhere else to go. It was her sister, Sue, who begged me to move in with her sister. Tiffany had just moved back from Massachusetts, and had just gotten this place, and with Derek, and it was in Marina Del Rey, and Sue begged me to move in. She wanted me to introduce Tiffany to Nichiren Buddhism. And Tiffany really, really liked me. And, we got along really well, and I liked her too. And Sue, had been trying to introduce her for years. And she had come out to visit. I was Sue's roommate previous to this, and in Santa Monica. And her sister, Tiffany had come to visit. And I was I don't know, she had come to visit Sue, and Sue and her didn't really get along, but Tiffany and I just hit it off, and And she went back to Massachusetts, and then she came back and decided to move to LA. And Sue was thrilled and just knew it was my mission to shakabuku Tiffany. And I was like, okay, cool out. It's all right. Yeah, I'll do my best. But it just wasn't, I'm not responsible for, I can't control somebody and their drug behavior, and then she was acting like a prostitute. It was just overwhelming what was happening, and I couldn't do anything. It was like, I'm like, okay, just don't bring anyone home. I don't want any of that here. This is our home. Just keep it away, but it came home with her. And with that came George and Ron, okay? And we became friends. It was my understanding that none of it was brought there, but I was DRUGGED with date RAPEDRUGS. And so I just thought, George and Ron were coming over they wanted to come over every day to hang out with me. And I'm like, I have a boyfriend. I just want you to understand. And Ron's like, well, where is your boyfriend? And I'm like, well, he's just, I don't know where he is, but he's just got some issues right now, and, he'll be back. And, I'm really committed to him and our relationship. And, I just want you to know this up front, that, I'm committed to my boyfriend. And sure, if you want to hang out and become my friend, that's fine. But just understand I'm committed to my boyfriend. And I'm not part of Tiffany's thing, I'm not anything to do with that. And they're like, we know. And and they were thrilled about that. And I'm like, okay, well, fine. If you want to come by, and sure. But, not part of this stuff. And I don't want to be. And, I've got a boyfriend and I'm committed to him. And they said, okay, and that's how it started. And I didn't understand that Ron was having a sexual relationship with me. I had no idea, okay, because I was DRUGGED, and that's how everything developed so fast. I didn't know why he liked me so much. I really had no idea. In those days I was asleep. I was since I was a baby, my father, the Zodiac killer, Dennis Wayne Elliot, had had used brain. He was a CIA operative, and there's this secret culture in the CIA. It's PEDOPILES. It's a sick culture, and I was raised in it, and I was used, and ABUSED, and I didn't remember anything. That's how I coped my whole life, and I was, DRUGGED all the time, and I was used to it. I was, I was brainwashed. There was like, take your aspirin, Claire, And I'm like, I'm not sick, though. Oh, take your aspirin or I'm going to ram it down your throat. I'm going to kill you, whatever. This is how he controlled me. And he would make sure that I took my aspirin. This is from babyhood on. Before people would come to our house, so they would think I would act that way naturally. It was like a sex DRUG, similar to ecstasy, and a little baby on ecstasy. Can you imagine? And that was the only way my father could get me to cooperate. Okay, and then when I got to be too old, it had to be date RAPEDRUG, because They didn't want me to remember anything. And but you know, it's funny. Sometimes I would just really be good at blocking things out, even with the ecstasy like drug. Sometimes that was more effective in blocking my memory than you know, I remember everything. I'm not unconscious. My eyes are wide open, and I'm a witness, you know, when I'm drugged with, oh, I said the word, DATEDRUGS. And, you know, but yeah, I tried really, you know, my whole life. I mean, you know, thank goodness for my daddy, who is Clint Eastwood. I know it's pretty wild that he's my daddy many times over, genetically speaking, and he raised me from my, you know, since before, I mean, you know, when my mother was pregnant and I was born, and until I was almost 6. And if he hadn't raised me, you know, and helped me learn how to cope with all that was happening and would happen to me, I would not have turned into the pure person I am today. Purity was very important to him, and he knew that none of this abuse and torture would ever take away my purity. He told me that again and again. He brainwashed me into knowing that it doesn't matter what happens to you, no one can take away your purity, Claire. And that's what I clung to, and that's why, and he taught me how to hypnotize myself and to put things away, and until I was ready to deal with them in my mind. You know, he taught me all of these things, and this is why I stayed normal, and I developed into the pure, you know, I still have my purity. I'm pure. And I finally found a husband that matches, or at least comes close to matching, my purity. Okay, purity is very important to me, and no one is ever going to defile me, no matter what they do to me. So, and that's how I cope. That's how I stay pure, going through all of this, you know, in 1994 up until today, you know, from babyhood until today. And I have only Daddy to thank. It would not be possible without him. And right now, he's in the state of Georgia. I said that, he's 93 officially, but he's actually, I said he was 96. I realized that I think he's 97. He was born in 1926, not 1930. And he's in the state of Georgia filming his latest movie, Juror Number 2. And I know I'm supposed to be reading the manifesto, but, you know, I know David, who is the true author of this manifesto, had the intention to cue me to tell my story, because nobody can except me. I'm the only one who is able to speak freely. I am top secret and classified, and I mean, I'm a human being, you know. Human beings, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what is considered protocol, but I do not think it is protocol to classify a human being. You know, I go to the bank. The money that belongs only to me doesn't exist to me. But they take that money and they distribute it throughout the United States, because I, as a child, with a generous heart, authorized its distribution worldwide to anyone who can claim they're a relative of mine. People I've never known, never met. But to me, I go to the bank and the account is invisible, and the bank employees have to pretend that, you know, they have little notes on their computer by the people. It's okay. I entrusted my money to two men I trusted with all my heart. And I thought, oh, if I'm going to have anyone manage my money, it would be these guys, because they care about me. They love me. And I want to be in business with them, because I'm not, one of them I used to go out with. And I had made the decision that he wasn't the marrying kind. He, can't be faithful to a woman because of what his mother did to him. He has such issues with women. It's very sad that she destroyed his life. And I had made the decision that I can't marry this guy because, he can't, he won't respect me as a wife. He'll be running around with all his whores, prostitutes, and sluts, and love them more than he loves me, his wife. So I made the decision, and I had already made that decision in 1994, even if I were to want to give him another chance later on in life. But I had made that decision in 1994. And so, yeah, okay, I can't marry him because of this serious situation that I don't want to marry somebody like that. But, I'll hire him. I won't marry him, but I'll hire him, right? And he, he, like a set of boobs, he has a partner. You can't have one without the other. And but the person I would marry is the guy I went out with. I wouldn't have ever married his right-hand man. Actually, I wouldn't really call him his right-hand man. I would call him his master. The person who tells him, who programs him and tells him what to think, what to do, I didn't understand that, I don't know. I didn't know him apparently very well. I thought I did, but I didn't. And I didn't understand that he was not the master of his own mind, and that he had to wait to be programmed by his partner to know what to think, do, say. And what they did without my consent or knowledge was marry me on paper to his partner instead of him, which is insane. This partner, was our friend, but I knew it was his best friend. But, if I had wanted to marry him, I would have, I wouldn't have had to be tricked into marrying somebody I wanted to marry, but I was tricked into marrying the guy I wouldn't have ever wanted to marry, ever. And this person is in total control of my life, my money, everything. And there's nothing I can do about it. I don't understand. I was the one who authorized them their security clearances. I'm the one that said, yes, I want them to be hired by the CIA. I'm the one that did this, okay? I thought, because I was told, oh yeah, do you want them to be like your father? I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't want them to be like my father, the Zodiac killer. I didn't, but I thought it was like, well, professionally speaking, even though it was my understanding that my father was just a really bad guy. And I guess at that point in 1994, I didn't understand that a lot of what fueled my father's evil nature or made him so bad was the CIA. I had no idea. I thought, oh, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, let's put him in the CIA, sure. They were asking me. I didn't know I had the ability to hire people in the CIA, but apparently I did, and I was like, okay, great. I didn't even know where all this money came from, nothing. I'm like, yeah, let's make him like my father, sure, yeah, give him security clearance, yes. I thought, oh, they're going to help me, and, I'm closer to them than I would ever be to my father. My father I even made my father the trustee of my trust, which was insane. I mean, I should have been the trustee. I don't know. I just didn't know anything about money, at least consciously. I know I was exposed to a lot of stuff when I was a kid, but I didn't yet remember anything. I had blocked it all out, okay, to protect myself. You can understand. And so, yeah, this is what I did. And I was tricked. This is what the CIA does. It tricks you. It entraps you and enslaves you. Everyone who is in the CIA is tricked, enslaved. They got dirt on you so they can control you. It's just, it's like it's like the mafia. Okay? You're in the mob, and, you know, like Hotel California, the song I co-wrote. You can check in, but you can never leave. That's the reality of the CIA. And I was born into it, okay? I never joined the CIA myself. I just was born into it, okay? But these idiots, you know, I hired them, and I trusted them, and I trusted them with my whole life and soul. And look at what happened. And here I am, age 57. I'm sitting here, can't pay my bills. Our water heater, the sensor went out in it a couple months ago. I have a 92-year-old woman over here in the next room that I take care of every day of my life, almost 24/7. I mean, you know, if I'm not here, it's because I have to get her supplies, food, whatever, or just take a much needed lunch break, you know, with my husband, okay? You know what I'm saying? And I'm working 24/7, and you know, I've had to lower my rate, you know, so, you know, I've given her the friend and family rate. It's like, works out to be only like a little over $10 an hour, okay? 24 hours times $10 an hour, that's, you know, it's really $249 a week, okay? That's my rate. She can't pay it because she gave all her money to her granddaughter. There were criminals that stole her money, and her nephew, and she has nothing left. She just has her Social Security and baby pension, and, you know, I just have to take what's left over, and, you know, it's not enough to pay all my bills, because I anticipated my money coming through by now, and I know they baited me. I went for the bait. It was clear bait, you know. I'm obsessed with courses and learning, and I buy too many courses, and I collect them. I don't actually take them. I don't actually use them, and I just collect them. And I just, you know, they were baiting me to purchase all these things. They gave me lots of credit cards. You know, when she ran out of money, I lived on credit cards. Oh, my money's coming through. They wouldn't give me all these credit cards otherwise, you know, and here I am in horrible debt, more debt than I've ever been in my life, and there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, the creditors, I've never had creditors call me like this. I have to just, like, you know, not pick up and just hope, you know, for the best. I don't know what's going to happen. Are they going to put liens on my house? I have a mortgage. I pay my mortgage. I pay my utilities. Don't have much left over. You know, we need supplies, food. We need to be able to get out of the house and, you know, have a bite to eat out of the house here and there. You know, there's not much left over. And, you know, I just don't know why I was baited. You know, I have to take responsibility, but, you know, I just trusted. I trusted that I was getting my money any day. I trusted. I had faith. Why would all these people be baiting me everywhere? Like, what, they want me to be in financial ruins? They want to put me in jeopardy? You know, no, they wouldn't want to do that, you know. But yeah, they did, apparently, because here I am. What am I going to do? You know? At least they can't take your home in the state of Georgia. They can't. I can stay here. You can put liens. Go ahead. Do what you have to do. They can't take my home. And, you know, I'll just cope until the time comes I get my money, or I can make some money for a change, you know. I wish that somebody would give me that opportunity, because it just seems like every time I start making money, they take away the opportunity, you know. Can't do anything. This is the CIA for you. Welcome to the CIA. They control your they control your entire existence. I can't do anything because I'm top secret. I have all this money to my name, and I can't pay any of my bills. But all the people they distribute my money to have no problem paying their bills every month. My money exists for them, but it doesn't exist for me, even though it's my name that's on that money and nobody else's. All right, well, I suppose it's time to start reading this manifesto. I mean, resuming the reading of this manifesto. I guess I just had to say a few words before we started, and it is, how long have I been talking? Oh, this is terrible. We're going on an hour pretty soon. I apologize. I'm just a little upset, and I know this manifesto David intended for me to speak publicly, and maybe he's cueing me about all the things he wants me to talk about publicly. And here I am in a live stream. I'm not editing this. This is raw. This is real. Okay. Oh, that's right. The manifesto is not here. It is on my computer. Let me find it. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to bring it up. Oh, and, you know, see the resemblance? No, long nose there. See, it's not even an Asian nose. You can see bigger nostrils. He has smaller nostrils. You just add a little width here. Add a little fullness to the upper and lower lip. There's a little less space. There's a little shadow in here. A little less space as the result. But see, like you go down here, you know, if you were to make a bigger lip, there'd be less space there too. Their ears are actually at a similar place because he has a wider face. There's more space in there to hide his ears. You know, there's more fake flesh there, I guess, on the sides. The eyes are a similar shape. They're not really Asian shaped. I know he's half Caucasian, but let me look at that. And this is actually an expression that's very familiar to me. Knowing David, this is David's expression, you know, when he's speaking. And obviously this is taken from a video when Elliot Rodger is speaking. And, you know, look at the eyebrows. They're darker, but they're similar in shape. It looks like, I think that they're kind of a little farther up, but you can see that the bone structure is the same. It's just his eyebrows are a little up more. They're moved up a little bit. David's are lower on the brow bone, you know, whereas they seem like, you know, here's the bone, there's the bone, and it seems like his are up there a little more. And yeah. And I don't know why, you know, Elliot Rodgers thinks he's so undesirable. I think he's beautiful. He's a beautiful boy, and it's very sad that, you know, what happened. But, you know, this is a disguise, and it was David, and I believe if they found his dead body, it was because David killed, like, there were two Elliot Rodgers, and obviously David interviewed him to tell his life story in this book, Manifesto. And because David didn't live this life, I mean, he was, you know, 40 years old in 1994, and this kid was born in 1991, and he was born on July 24th. Today is the 21st of July. In 3 days, Bryan Kohberger has to come up with an alibi. And that's why I really feel like this manifesto is the key to this case, okay? The court chose Elliot Rodger's birthday as the deadline for Bryan Kohberger to come up with his alibi. Bryan Kohberger does not have an alibi because he did this. And how do I know that? Because his true identity is David. And, you know, I guess if you look at my thumbnails, I don't have any, I mean, I could bring it up, but I think what we need to do right now is continue reading the manifesto, right? If you look at my other thumbnails, you'll see the comparison, and watch my other live streams in this series and other live streams. Also, you'll see the comparison of David's face to Bryan's face, and that's an even this disguise does not resemble David nearly as much as Bryan Kohberger does. Okay, let's bring up the manifesto. Here it is. Let me shrink this up so it doesn't get cut off. And I'll enlarge it as well. Let's get it a little larger. Okay. And really, I could make it larger than this, right? No, okay, let's just do it. Okay. If I do it more, would it be too big? Yes. All right, so this is a good... Okay. All right, so we were at part 3. Oops, I'm gonna use my mouse. All right, part 3. Is that it? Yeah. All right, we were here. Part 3, the last period of contentment, age 9 to 13. I can't believe I'm not past age 9 after all these pages. Okay, so I'm now on page 18. Oh, and there are 141 pages of this manifesto. Okay, let's get reading. I'm sorry I took all this time talking about my own life, but I know this is what this manifesto intended for me to do. And I didn't know this starting the reading of it. Okay, part 3, the last period of contentment, age 9 to 13. 4th grade ended, and once the summer started, I took a vow to mold myself into the coolest kid I could possibly be by the time 5th grade began. It kind of reminds me of me a little bit. I used to move around a little bit. I co-wrote the song The New Kid in Town by the Eagles, and others by the Eagles, yeah, as well, but and other artists. Yeah, that's always what I mean. As a kid, that's kind of what you want to do. Oh, okay, we're gonna move. I'm gonna like be really cool, you know, and I'm gonna be popular this time, you know. I was always kind of independent, but every kid wants to be in the cool, you know, get with the cool kids, right? I anticipated the approval the other cool kids would have of me once I revealed myself as being similar to them, and I looked forward to it. After about a year and a half of living in the house on Hatteras Street in Upper West Hills, my father decided to move into an even better house. I thought he already had moved into a better house. Okay. This time, all of us spent a day looking at open houses together as a family. We went with a real estate agent and examined some beautiful homes around Woodland Hills. My favorite one was a 3-story house on Llano Drive in the Woodland Hills Heights, the most prestigious area of Woodland Hills that bordered Calabasas. It didn't have a pool, but it had a sloping backyard almost 3 times as large as our current one. The house had 6 bedrooms, and I took an intense liking to one particular bedroom that had its own bathroom and a personal balcony. My father showed extreme enthusiasm about possibly buying this house, and I became obsessed with getting that particular bedroom as my own. When I brought it up with Father and Sumaya, they said that the room would most likely be Georgia's because it was closer to the master bedroom. What the hell does that have to do with anything? They said I would get a bedroom downstairs, one without my own bathroom or balcony. I was furious and I threw a huge crying tantrum. So he was the firstborn and he didn't get first dibs on anything. Why is that? What's going on here? What was going on with Georgia? I live in the state of Georgia, by the way. That doesn't seem right. In my family, the firstborn had first dibs. That, I was the firstborn. My brother Mark was like 2.5 years younger than me, but I always got to choose my bedroom, and then he got the other one. There were usually 2 bedrooms we got to choose from. I mean, in our on Riverside Drive in Princeton, there were actually more than 2 to choose from. And I chose a smaller bedroom because it was blue, and I didn't like orange, and he got the bigger bedroom actually because I liked the smaller one. And he liked getting that big one because I always got the bigger one. But he got the bigger one on Riverside Drive, the last place I lived with him. And we moved in 1976, and I would run away from home. I guess it was in 1982. And then my mother plopped me on my father's doorstep on Edgerstone Road in Princeton, and that's where I lived until I turned 18 and moved to New York City. And that was in 1984. I turned 18 on October 21st, 1983, and then I moved to New York in the spring of 1984. Okay. So, yeah, I can understand being treated that way would really be frustrating, especially if you're the firstborn and the baby sister gets special treatment. I wonder why. Why did they want her near the master bedroom? What were they doing with her? Makes me suspicious a little bit. But then again, I mean, yeah, okay, they want to keep an eye on her because she's a girl, she's younger. I don't know. Makes me wonder what was going on in that family. Okay. Soon enough, Father went ahead with the decision to buy this house. I made a big deal about the possibility of not getting that lovely bedroom I wanted, and I kept sulking to Father and Sumaya about it. When they finally moved and the first week of Father's at this new house started, I was very anxious. But then as we entered, Father and Sumaya surprised me and revealed that they decided to give me the room I wanted. Wow! I was so happy. I danced and leaped with joy all over the house. And then I went to my new balcony and looked out at the beautiful view of Woodland Hills for an hour. Wow. After the move to this new house, Father would never move again, and he still lives there to this very day. I wonder if he still does. I would have many important experiences there for the next decade, both good and terrible. I needed a skateboard for my mother's house, for Mother's house too. I needed a skateboard for Mother's house too, and so my mother took me to Valsurf and bought me a gray Valsurf skateboard. Since I had all of my play dates during Mother's Week, and Mother would make more of an effort to indulge in my new interest, eventually taking me to skate parks every weekend. Okay, I would use this skateboard much more than the red skateboard I had at Father's house, since I had all of my play dates during Mother's Week, and Mother would make more of an effort to indulge in my new interest, eventually taking me to skate parks every weekend. I became very excited about my new hobby, and I shared it with James Ellis and Philip Blozer, my 2 main friends. I wanted to get them interested in skateboarding as well. It was tricky to get James into it, but he soon got his own skateboard, and we would start skateboarding together around his neighborhood. As I now considered myself a skateboarder, I wanted to dress in the clothes that all the cool skateboarders were wearing. My mother took me to Valsurf once again, this time to shop for new shirts. I picked out a few that had the logos of skateboard companies on them. Later that day, I put on one of my new shirts and I was thrilled to start going around in it. I felt cool. At my father's house, I was introduced to a new nanny who would be living with us. Rosa and Amparo left back to their home countries a few months before we moved house. This new nanny was an African-American woman named Tracy. She had a very fun personality, and I always had a pleasant time when she looked after us. She was able to drive, unlike my previous nannies, and so she would be the one who would always pick me up from school during Father's Week from that point on. Uncle Dan had a quarrel with my father, and he was forced to move out. I would never see him again after that. Tracy would, in a way, replace Uncle Dan as the lodger who would live at Father's house. Early in the summer, Father forced me to attend summer camp at an elementary school nearby our new house. This school was Bay Laurel Elementary School in Calabasas. I hated the prospect, and I vehemently protested it. The last thing I wanted to do was spend my coveted summer at a school where I didn't know anyone. I was starting to like going to Father's house a lot more after moving to our lovely new house with my exquisite new room, but this decision of Father's made me dislike my weeks there again. At Mother's house, I had it my way more often, and that's how I wanted to live. I hated having to go to camp during the summer, and I was miserable at the start. But a couple weeks into it, I made friends with two brothers named Thomas and Tyler. On Mother's Week, I spent more and more time practicing skateboarding, and I had lots of play dates with James where we would skateboard together. We also had a lot of fun playing Nintendo 64 games such as Donkey Kong 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, James Bond, GoldenEye, and many more. He also got me interested in collecting Beanie Babies. At first I thought such a thing was very lame and girly, but we used them to fuel our imagination and have mock battles and wars with each other. It was our secret hobby that we told no one about. I was relieved when summer camp ended, and once it was over my 10th birthday, my 10th birthday arrived. I had been on this world, on this earth, on this world. It's so strange that he used that word. On this world for a decade. 10 years old. He's only 10 years old. And what a decade it was, full of discovery, fun, and happy adventures. I can't say the same for the following decade. I didn't have a party for my 10th birthday, and I believe I celebrated it during Mother's Week. We went out with James and his family to a restaurant in the Palisades. 10 years old. Finally, we get to 10 years old. I was eager to rebleach my hair to a fully blonde color after the disastrous failure of my previous attempt. This time, Sumaya took me to the right salon, and they gave me a short haircut and bleached all of my hair blonde. Wow, he was only 10 when they did this. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I felt an intense level of satisfaction. I went to James's house soon after I acquired my new hair color, and the look of surprise on his face when he first saw me gave me a good laugh. A couple of weeks later, my hair started to grow and my black hair would show at the roots, but the blend turned out to suit me well, and this would become my hairstyle for the next year. Mother took me and my sister on a short vacation towards the end of the summer. We drove up the 101 freeway to Ventura, where we stayed at the Holiday Inn, which has now been replaced by the Crown Plaza. I found the hotel to be comfortable and luxurious. It was located right on Ventura Promenade, a beautiful walkway along the beach that led to a long pier. At this stage, I was very enthusiastic. I don't know if David wants me to mention that my clone lived up in Ventura County. Yeah. He spent some time with her. And who knows, she had gone, my father, the Zodiac killer, Dennis Wayne, I was going to say Craig Elliot, Dennis Wayne Elliot, he corrupted my clone, and sadly, you know, when we were kids, when we'd have sleepovers, you know, and so, and I introduced David to her, and, you know, I do suspect that they might have collaborated on some criminal activity. Even, and I know, I don't want to say her name. I know she's involved with my money. She's, you know, my twin is involved in my money. I know that, I know the corruption. I know that my twin and my clone, who was my childhood friend, who I introduced to David, I know they're part of the corruption that prevents me from getting my own money. I know my twin stands in for me. She doesn't look anything like me. Obviously, she tries really hard not to look anything like me, because it's my belief, and I guess it's based on information that I have in my head somehow, some way, that she claimed that I'm not her twin. Like, it's somebody else that is the real Claire Elliott, and this is where all the confusion came from. I really thought it was like my own mother or somebody. I think my father just went along with it. But, and I know the idiot that I talk about, who, you know, part of this one half of the boobs I talk about, the set of boobs, can't help one without the other. The one who programs the other one what to say, think, or do. The one I was tricked into marrying on paper against my will. I mean, I wouldn't have had to be tricked into doing it if, I mean, I would have married him if I had wanted to marry him in real life, you know. They wouldn't have had to trick me, is what I'm trying to say. He, you know, and I don't want to give too much away, but he always wanted to go out with me himself. I know he always felt like I deserved better than the guy I actually went out with, his best friend. You know, and he kind of put me on a pedestal, and, you know, I was exactly the kind of woman he wanted to marry, but I wasn't interested in him. I was, you know, totally focused on his best friend, and, you know, he thought I deserved better, and, you know, he had plans to break us up, and he did. He helped break us up, and he had plans to marry me himself, you know. And then when this opportunity came, and, you know, it's kind of complicated. I didn't want this guy to know my past. We had all crossed paths in our, you know, when we were younger, and I didn't want him to know I was that same person, because I was embarrassed. I didn't remember everything concretely, but I knew, you know, I was ABUSED, and I was under the influence of DRUGS against my will, and, you know, and I didn't want him to think I was that kind of a girl, you know, because I'm not, you know. That was a different girl. Whenever I was DRUGGED, I wasn't myself. I was under the influence of that powerful DRUG. And so that wasn't me. You know, that DRUG shuts down your brain, and you don't behave as you would naturally. And so it's like you become a different person. It's not who you really are, right? When you're, you know, and so you become a different person. And so that girl was not me. And that's how I justified it in my mind. That's not me. That's not me. And it wasn't. That's how I stayed pure. That's how I grew up and stayed normal, and stayed pure. And so I didn't want this guy to know that was me that he interacted with, in that way. And I didn't want either one of them to know, because they both had interacted with me when we were younger and seen me that way. And that girl that they interacted with, they called Auntie, because technically, genetically speaking, I was the guy who became my boyfriend. I was his aunt, genetically speaking. But then when I met him later in life, and under different circumstances, not remembering that I had met him before, or his best friend, we were just, I wouldn't have gone out with my nephew, right? But I don't know. They never forgot. I put it away, and, and when they asked me if I was her, when my boyfriend asked, his family became suspicious. They saw me, and they, I had the same name as this girl, and I was from the same town and everything, and they were becoming suspicious, and they would tell my boyfriend that they thought it was me, and he would ask, and I'd be like, no, that's not me. No, you're wrong. They're wrong. That would never be me in a million years. And so I was so emphatic about it that eventually he believed me. And of course his partner believed me automatically, because he didn't want to think that, he had put me on a pedestal and longed to make me his wife one day. And, his wife would never be like that, right? In his mind. And so they grew to understand that we were different people. But it was me. It was one person, but I couldn't handle. I didn't want them to think I was that kind of a girl. I was pure. I'm not that girl. I'm not a prostitute. I'm not, oh no, that was the way I coped in those days, because I couldn't, I was not facing it. I was just trying to get through my childhood and grow up and have a normal life. That had nothing to do with me. And this is how they began thinking of us as two different people. And this is the confusion that happened later, when they thought I was the wrong Claire Elliott. Even though both my parents had the same name, my brother had the same name, I lived in the same house. If they ever did any research, I went to the same high school. We had the same friends. I'm on Facebook. Everybody knows who my friends are and what school I went to. Anyway, it's insanity. Okay. And I guess, after a certain point, it became, it became clear that if we weren't two different people, if it was me, this partner of my boyfriend, he was in deep legal trouble, right? Because he totally threw me under the bus. Both of them did. My boyfriend, former boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, and his partner, they threw me under the bus, literally. The girl they loved a long time ago, they threw her under the bus. They loved me, and they threw someone they loved under the bus because they thought they worked for a different Claire Elliott. I mean, how despicable is that? I mean, if I worked for someone and they told me to throw the the so-called fake Claire Elliott, the whatever, under the bus, and I loved that Claire Elliott. I mean, adored her. I had wanted to marry her at one time. Both of them did at one time. I mean, I don't think I would be able to throw somebody. I would say, screw you. No, I'm walking away. Sorry. This is not what I signed up for. But again, it's the CIA, You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. I know they think they were set up, and okay, fine. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to hearing this story when I'm declassified. I need someone to tell me exactly what has happened here, because my life has been destroyed. I'm like the Walking Dead. I'm like I haven't been born. I'm like a little embryo walking down the street, not being born, not being born to have my life, my money, everything. I mean, it's like I'm in a holding pattern. I'm 57 years old. I've gone through so much torture, abuse. I mean, I've earned this. I've earned every penny that is to my name. Every freaking penny. I have earned it with my life, with my blood, sweat, and tears. It's not like anyone's giving me anything. I had everything at birth. The moment I was born, the firstborn of my mother, who, surviving all that she, my mother allowed doctors to inject her with heroin. I mean, ungodly amounts of heroin. All this, they were trying to kill us, okay? We probably died and came back to life many, many times. But we survived, okay? We are miracle babies, okay? And I was the only baby, the firstborn. I was the firstborn, and I came out healthy and normal. I mean, that made me queen, all right? That earned me the title queen, all right? That's how I became queen at birth. I earned it, okay? Nobody just handed me the title. I earned it with my birth, and still I'm not allowed to have anything I inherited at birth. Okay, and then on top of that, as a baby, as soon as I was speaking clearly in my first language of Japanese, okay, because Daddy only spoke to me in Japanese, his native Japanese. I know Clint Eastwood doesn't look like he speaks Japanese. I know, but he does, and he's native Japanese. And that's what I learned that was my first language, because my mother never spoke to me. Daddy was my mommy, not my mother. And I was co-writing Beatles songs with him. I was co-writing lots of things with him. Scientology was created by us. Well, really Daddy, but he allowed me to help create all their therapy and all kinds of things. Anyway, it is despicable what has happened to me. And then later in the 1970s, I co-wrote so many songs with Ross, and I'm the melody. I helped with the lyrics too. Sometimes songs were completely my own. Once we got our chops up, we were churning them out. I mean, it's, all these artists, take credit for my work, our work. I co-produced films, co-wrote screenplays, founded so many world-renowned brands that you all know and love with my money when I was a child in the 1970s. Personally did this with all my ideas. They used all my ideas, everything. And I am like, all my ideas, once they were implemented, became really successful. I mean, I created an empire when I was a child. And I have not received one penny of that empire. I've received not one iota of credit for that empire. Everybody else steals my credit and takes credit. I'm just, I was a child prodigy, and everybody's like, oh, it was, they make so much, they laugh all the way to the bank, and I sit here barely surviving. There was a time when I was homeless on the streets all by myself. I've lived outside. I've lived in my van. I've lived in my car. I mean, you name it. I've been in homeless shelters. I've gone through so much, and it's to understand the homeless the homeless population, what it is to be homeless in the United States. I needed to understand these things. Daddy wanted me to be, one of the people, and to really know, having these titles and all this money, it does, you need to understand what's going on in America to really help America, to really be able to lead America and do something. What's the use of all this money and titles if you don't understand the people suffering? That's the whole point. That's why, I hope to be able to be allowed to be queen and really put this money to use where it needs to be put to use. I have suffered so much, and I know what needs to be done so nobody goes through what I've been through. First of all, the financial system, it's totally rigged to defraud people, the ordinary person. It's totally, we live in such a corrupt government, banking system. We live in hell. This is hell. All the devils get everything, and all the innocent people, are meant to give them everything. They just are robbed of everything, and and they laugh all the way to the bank. That's the world we live in, and people don't even know how much what's being done to them, and I'm meant to expose it, and that's why why I was born. And I know the devils want me to go away, I know, but did you all think that you were gonna when you're a devil, I guess you don't believe in God, you don't believe in good, otherwise you wouldn't be a devil, right? You've lost faith in what is good, what is true. You think you can just distort reality for your own benefit, and I guess you think that in this world that's the way it's supposed to be. And sorry, what happened to honor and standing up for what's right and taking responsibility, for what you contributed to the and did to people. And it's not all about right here and right now. Life is has far more depth than what's right here, right now. This is all an illusion. And you devils, you think you're tricking all the innocent, stupid, ignorant people, right? But it's really you who are being tricked into being the devil you are. You are digging your own grave. Because, when you die, what do you think's going to happen? You're all here in your folly, and you're all having fun. Oh, yeah, I'm so smart. I'm so great. Yeah. What do you think is going to, let's say you drop dead tomorrow. What do you think is going to happen? You think you're just going to, lay in your grave and rot, and that's the end? Is that what you think? Are you an atheist? What do you think, Satan's going to party hardy with you and take you around the universe and have fun with you? What is your belief? Do you believe in anything? Don't you know there's a reality after death, and what you do in this life has consequences? You're being fooled you're being tricked, just like you're tricking all the innocent, stupid people. You're being tricked. You're the stupid person who's being tricked by the universe. It's just, it's just so amazing to me that so many people can think they get away with everything. And, oh, yeah, we're so smart. You're so stupid is what you are. Oh, we're so clever. We're so smart. We have it going on. You're yeah, let's see how you feel when you're on your deathbed and you have to face the truth. Everyone on their deathbed faces the truth whether they want to or not. Everyone. And it's you who's stupid. As for, that boyfriend I mentioned who's like programmed by the idiot, and they are in control of my entire existence. I believe that Clint Eastwood wrote that movie, Juror Number 2, for him. Or to help me understand what has happened here, because nobody can tell me anything. But you can make, Clint, Daddy can write a movie, and tell me that way without telling me, right? And it's about it's a murder trial, of course, right? And I don't know if Juror Number 2 is the person who realizes they accidentally, I don't know, I forget the summary that they have of the movie Juror Number 2. It's about somebody who realizes during a murder trial that they accidentally caused this murder with a vehicle, some kind of accident. I think it was an automobile accident, and they secretly try to help the defendant without incriminating themselves. And I do believe that boyfriend I've mentioned is doing just that. Realizing his error, and thinking there were two Claire Elliots and he fucked up, and oh my God, I was right. He initially was right, and he allowed himself to be led astray by this idiot who is his partner, who thinks he is the smartest person in the universe. I mean, his partner who programs him what to say, do, think, and he thinks he's got the highest IQ in existence. He prides himself on being, the smartest person in all of existence. He is God Almighty. Apparently, that's what he thinks about himself, and he just can't be wrong. He just can't be wrong. And, and this is a lot of the way that he led my ex-boyfriend astray, like he did, And my ex-boyfriend, is, he has since woken up and realized the truth. And, but for him to step forward and do the right thing and take full responsibility would mean incriminating himself, right? I mean, that's the only honorable thing to do, is to step up and take full responsibility and speak the truth and, face the consequences. That is the only honorable option here. But no, he's trying to covertly help me without incriminating himself. That is not the honorable thing to do. I mean, I appreciate it. Thank you for that half-hearted, flimsy way of sort of doing a little of the right thing. Thank you. I appreciate it, but I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get. But really, I mean, whatever happened to honor? Whatever happened to, this is where sacrifice is necessary. When you fucked up like that, excuse my language, you got to take full responsibility. You got to step up and say, okay, I totally fucked up. I did this, and I royally screwed up, and I take full responsibility. Do with me what you must. I have nothing else to live for because I threw away my life when I did this. You know, I mean, you sacrifice yourself. When you fuck up like that, you know, you sacrificed me. Both of you did. And I'm speaking to them right now, wherever they are. And you know, I mean, okay, I can't say that I'm speaking to them because, you know, there's a restraining order, okay? You know, this is how they control me because I don't have a security clearance, so they have to control me with this restraining order. So I'm not speaking to them. I'm speaking to the thought of them, okay? Let's be clear, okay? You sacrificed me, so now it's time to sacrifice yourself. You know, you did it to me. You threw me under the bus. So now it's time to sacrifice yourself. I wish you didn't have to. I wish you hadn't sacrificed me like you chose to. You calculated, you evaluated your options, and that was the only option you thought you had, and you did it. And yes, you didn't like doing it, but you did it. So now evaluate your options and do the right thing and sacrifice yourself. You know, I don't care. You know, okay, I don't know. You have families, sure. Okay, fine. Think about the example you are showing your children and do the right thing. What example do you want to be for your children? Instead of trying to save, you know, you're gone. You're in the garbage can. Okay, I think you're a horrible example for your children. Horrible. You're the worst. Why don't you try to redeem yourself and do the right thing and be the kind of example you should be for your children? Even if it means you'll never see them again or you'll be in jail for the rest of your life. I don't know. Do the right thing. Do the honorable thing. It's not just it's not just in fairy tales that people do the honorable thing. It's in real life. I mean, that's what it's supposed to be. You know, people are supposed to do the right thing in real life, okay? I know this world is totally gone and, you know, people don't know what honor is and what taking full responsibility is. But this is the time for you to take full responsibility and do the right thing, you know? David finally did the right thing. I mean, I didn't want him to kill 4 more people, but at least he has sacrificed himself for the sake of what is true and for me by turning himself in this awful way. I wish it could have been just walking down to his local police department or FBI office. But no, this is the way he's turning himself in, and he's doing it because he sacrificed me at one time again and again and again, and this is his way of making it up to me or karmically paying what he owes. You know, you do it before you die, because when you die, it's too late. Do it now before it's too late. And I guess this is where I should end it today. I didn't anticipate it going this way, but it's really important that I speak what's true. There is a time for sacrifice, and I have sacrificed my entire existence for all of you, and I ask that the people who are responsible for my situation today step up and sacrifice themselves so I can have a life for the first time ever. I beg you. Goodbye.